Well, China really does not want its neighbors to be engaged in security cooperation with countries that are out of the South China Sea region, of course, Southeast Asia. It looks at it provocatively, as we've mentioned time and again, because, of course, the need to understand what really is Beijing after? Beijing is after solidifying its sphere of influence, altering the status quo to its favor, and of course shifting the balance of power. So of course, when you have countries that are willing to build on the capacity of its competitors, then that's not going to be something that it would like, of course. But now is a do-or-die situation for the Philippines under President Marcos Jr. Our foreign policy is headed towards the right direction, but of course, it wouldn't be easy. And this is where we would be tested. China is testing us every single day in the West Philippine Sea. And this is where we would have to show our consistency and our political will. Well, if we look into it as a whole, the entire Western Pacific is of absolute importance to China in its quest for dominance. And of course, Taiwan is considered to be an area which China has effectively staked its claim, and despite the fact that it has been engaging in a very unruly behavior. But of course, given the situation, given international politics in the 21st century, where every aspect is interconnected with one another, it is quite difficult to segregate Taiwan as a separate issue and the West Philippine Sea as a separate issue, given, of course, the interlinked security dilemmas that we are all facing. But of course, but we have to understand this. I understand that there are a lot of aspects to this where we try to assume the worst case scenario. But given China's position, it is in a position that wants to avoid war, because war would be self-defeating for China as well. Its military has not engaged in any war-like situation for how many decades? The last time they did that, they lost, and in the 1970s. So we have to understand that war is not something that China wants to achieve. If we have time, just a quick analogy. What does a bully do? Right? The bully wants to provoke the situation, make its victim weaker and weaker through provocations, until to the point where the victim would just accept it. That, okay, whatever, I'm going to give you my lunch, I'm going to give you my money, etc. Just don't hurt me. And the bully does that often behind the teacher's backs. Right? So in our situation now, China does not want to engage in a direct confrontation, a shooting war. It has been doing so since the 1990s, since 2008, has been altering the status quo of the East China Sea, the South China Sea, without the overt use of military force. And this is something that we have to take into consideration, because while the military aspect is good for the long term, mid to long term, we have to improve our capabilities for the gray zone tactics. Vietnam's case represents, its hedging strategy, between the US and China in the 21st century, similar to how it tried to hedge between the Soviet Union and China during the Cold War. Represents a desire to balance its domestic political perception, okay, along with its agreement towards multi-pronged, or rather multi-alignment. So it's trying to engage as much as it can without putting its eggs in one basket, without falling into one block. The Philippines, however, we are currently trying to make that position that we are not for block politics. No, we have made this position very clear. We are not engaging with our partners for the purpose of block politics, but in defense. We are mainly utilizing this to secure our sovereignty and sovereign rights. And quick to your question, what can we do in terms of the economy? Well, our imports from China is the most problematic aspect of our asymmetric relationship. One of my suggestions is that we can't just reroute our imports from China because that will be more expensive produce, increase inflation, etc. What we can do is we should harness our manufacturing capabilities. The partners that we have, joint production here in the Philippines. We have the labor, we may need the technology. Though we are now aligning closely with the US, it does not mean that we are willing to let go of key areas of our interest that may not be in line with US interests as well. And I coined that term of proactive autonomy, which means that we are putting our alliance with the US at the forefront, but at the same time we seek that level of political autonomy as well, to engage beyond the sphere of the alliance.